Hello, my name is Chelsea and this is Morgan. We are owners of Maintain Me Senior Services and you are now watching the Denver Older Adult channel. Thanks for joining us today. If it's your first time here, please feel free to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We are putting out new videos every single week on senior resources, how to navigate the aging process. And today we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic and something that I think a lot of people are asking themselves when put into this process. And the first thing that we're going to talk about today are kind of 5 big mistakes that people make when choosing an assisted living community.
Awesome, Chelsea. Thanks. I'll start with the first one that we see is going on looks alone. So especially in today's modern times, when a new assisted living is built, it has all the bells and whistles. It might even feel or look like a hotel in Las Vegas when you walk in. And while it may look really pretty, now have they spent all their resources on looks? Have they made the building really pretty and not reserved enough money left over to take good care of their staff and to pay well or above market rate? Have they left money behind to hire all the resources that you need, like a driver or a solid activities person? So once you're living there, how much are you going to benefit from those pretty walls and white couches and luxury design? Is it really conducive to the lifestyle that you want to live or the way that you live now? Or is it more bells and whistles just to sell you as you walk in the door?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a lot of people ask, it's really, really nice there. That means they have good care, right? And it's like, well, no, not necessarily. So, is there a direct correlation to how good it looks and how good the care? I haven't seen that be the case always. And so I think it's definitely a really good topic. Okay, I'm going to go into the second one. And this one I'm super passionate about just because of my background. And the second mistake people commonly make is going by state occurrences alone. So I am not discrediting in any way like state occurrences and the process or the documentation of that. However, I used to own a little 8-bed residential assisted living home. And anytime I saw an opportunity where something went wrong and we thought that should be written up and a change needed to occur, we would self-report. And self-reporting is sending in that occurrence on your own and saying, hey, you know what, this happened and it could have gone better. And these are the things that we're going to do to make it better, goes on that state occurrence. Now, whatever they categorize that occurrence as can be just as bad as, so say for instance, somebody fell and you needed to make a change in your fall policy. I would self-report and say, hey, this person fell and these are the things that we need to be changing in our fall policy. And that could be go under one stand or kind of a broad title of what that occurrence is. And then another assisted living can go in and have a fall where this person was on the floor, nobody responded, and it was found out by a complaint, and it goes under the same title of this safety concern. So when I want to say about this title, without getting too in depth about it, is one of the things people make a mistake is they go on, they're like, oh my gosh, they have so many occurrences. So these are the things I would consider when looking at that. Number one, how long have they been open and how far back are you looking in occurrences? Has there been a change in ownership or a large change that would have affected what that looks like? And after that change, how many are there? So kind of identifying, the true story of what's going on in that community. The second thing being, was it self-reported or not? Did they identify that there was a mistake? Because these are still humans taking care of humans. And so did they identify the mistake and then therefore, tell on themselves, really say, hey, this is what happened. This is what we're going to do to make it better. And really just learning how to read these occurrences. This is a great resource. 100% is a great resource. However, you've got to learn how to read it and you've got to take the time to go in there and actually get the true story before deciding on this alone.
Well done, very thorough. And by state reporting, just for clarification for our audience, you mean the body that oversees the government body of the state that you live in oversees the licensure?
Yes, absolutely. And these can be done by surveys or anything, but and oftentimes by surveys, but there's a lot of different things that trigger that. And so just understanding that a little bit more, and then just diving in. Don't just look at how many, diving into it.
Very good. The next one we're going to talk about, number 3 in the 5 common mistakes people make in choosing an assisted living, is falling in love with the salesperson.
Oh,
Choose
yeah.
that community because you had such a good sales experience rather. Think about that. So when you go to a used car lot and you love the salesman and you end up with a lemon, because you didn't actually look over the car, you just trusted this person who was telling you exactly what they're supposed to tell you because it's their job. Now, this salesperson is probably very charismatic, can speak especially to your concerns, but this salesperson is not providing the care. So when you go and have a tour, it's excellent that you have a good relationship and a good first impression with that first person that you meet. That's their job, but you want to ask for references. Is there another family whose loved one lives here that I could talk to? While you're there, you're sitting in the hallway waiting for your tour to start, and there's a nice gentleman sitting next to you. How do you like living here? Just be asked, talk to the people that live here, that live there rather. And also, if you're going to have a tour, maybe ask if you could have lunch there and sit with some of the other people that live there and say, what do you think? See how friendly they are to you as this outsider person maybe looking at moving in here. If they're not friendly when you're on your first visit, or if it's uncomfortable, I don't know, maybe that's a sign of a deeper problem. And, talking to other people, other family members, sometimes family members have a very different opinion than the actual person who lives there. Right. So to take both into account and just say, what do you think? And they could tell you, well, the food's okay, common complaint, but the activities are wonderful. Perfect. That's what I'm after. I'm coming for the, I want the engagement. I want the activities. So there's just a lot of detective work or investigation that needs to go into product research before you buy. And that is just not one meeting with the sales department.
Yeah, I can't say how many times, and I'm sure you've had this too, Morgan, where, us too, right? We have relationships with sales as people, as transition coordinators. And it's hard when that salesperson leaves, but they're also not the one after the move happens that's really going to be engaged in what that patient care looks like. And I mean, they may or may not ever really talk to that salesperson unless they're touring around again. So it's hard to see families say, oh, so-and-so left. And, that was one of the main reasons that we chose this place. And we kind of always try to tell our clients, yes, the salespeople are so important, and they will see them as you're passing through the community. And some of them are more engaged than others, but it's definitely not a main reason to choose, because they are not the ones who are going to be really kind of diving into what your care looks like and what your life looks like and your all of that. I mean, some of them are really actually engaged, but not always, and people move. So, and I don't you think that we've seen a lot of people cycle in the sales world? They don't always get out. They sometimes cycle from community to community, but we definitely see a lot of movement there. Okay, we're going to go into the 4th mistake people commonly make, and that is thinking that assisted living is a one-size-fits-all. And I can speak to this because I too had that perception when I was a nurse case manager in the hospital. I didn't have the experience at the time, and I helped people go to these communities every day from the hospital and had zero idea of how different they all can be. And that was such a big eye opener for me, and a learning lesson that I had to really just kind of be humble about and be like, wow, I did not know that there was so many different options in the assisted living world. I didn't know that they could look like a house. I mean, I did, but I didn't know that each house could look so different and have so many different numbers. It can be an 8-bed, it can be a 10-bed, it can be a 12, 16, 32. I didn't know that it came in so many different shapes. I didn't know that some of the large communities, even though they look so large from the outside, that they actually didn't have 200 beds. They had a little less, but they, have a lot of communal areas. So there's just so many options. I didn't know there was 3 different payment models. I just didn't know that there were so many things. So the beautiful thing about finding a community is there really is a community for everyone, but it does take kind of letting down your guard and saying, hey, I would have never thought that this would have been a good option, and being open to maybe, looking at them all, looking at a small community versus looking at a residential home versus a small community versus a large community, and even if the small community is not best for you, saying, you know what, I'm really glad that I saw that, but it is not really what I'm looking for. But just having an open mind, especially when you're working with a professional and they're saying, hey, I think that we should look at this. So just knowing that there is really cool options out there, which kind of leads us into our fifth mistake of talking about working with professionals.
So our fifth mistake is, not taking advantage of the free advocacy that exists and doing it on your own. And we sort of hesitated on sharing this because this is what we do. So we were wondering, well, is this a shameless plug? Well, it is a shameless plug because it's true. The reason that our phone rings every day and people call us is because this is hard. And many times we meet people who have done it on their own. And the first thing they say to us is, man, I wish I would have known about services like you when I was doing this for myself, for my mom, for my X, Y, or Z, for my neighbor. So you need to go it alone when there's free advocacy and people that can help. And this is across the state. It does not matter, or across the country, rather. It doesn't matter what state you live in. There's some of us there.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things too, and Morgan and I were talking about this, is I even myself, if I was going to another state or I wasn't familiar, I would still use somebody, even having the history and the experience that I have with this. Because, and I know you probably do this too, Morgan, but if we're working with a family and that family member is saying, oh, I really want to see this place, but we just had a really bad transition there where their care needs weren't met, and it's very directly in line with what that other family is really looking for, and their expectations are kind of in a line, and maybe similar care needs and things like that. We may, not that we're going to steer them away from that, but we may be cautious to be asking different questions when touring and things, because it really is about choice. However, we really want to make sure that we are asking appropriate questions that we already know may have been a problem recently. And so, that you would not, or a client wouldn't know, or a family member wouldn't know to ask those questions because they didn't just have a bad experience. And so again, we don't like to steer away from communities versus others. We know that each thing is very specific, but you better believe we're going to be asking questions about, hey, if this comes up, what are you going to do about it? Or, this has been something that we've seen. Is this something that you guys have come up with a solution for? Has things changed in this department? And it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. And we want the family members to really be able to go in there and be able to look around at some of the other residents and kind of get that feel and really just kind of listen to their hearts and not have to worry about what questions to ask. And a lot of those questions are geared towards from our experience. So yeah. And again, Morgan and I were like, gosh, do we say it? Do we not say it? Yeah, we say it. We are so passionate about it. And we wouldn't do what we do every single day if we didn't just think it brought this awesome value to our aging population. And so we're like, we're doing it. We're saying it. We're going to tell everybody, even whether it's us or anybody else. We do think that you should utilize that free representation. You deserve to have somebody by your side, because otherwise, everywhere you go, you do get sold to by everybody, and you're not really sure what makes them special or if it's just necessary. Like, is that regulation or is that something you do that goes over and beyond? So just little things like that. But okay, so today we talked about 5 common mistakes that people make when choosing an assisted living. If you have any other questions regarding that, please let us know. Or maybe, you want to give us some of your feedback. Please comment down below. We always put our contact information, our email, our phone number in the description down below. We want to hear from you. If you're watching this and you have things to say about that, please come and talk to us about it. We like starting that dialogue, and you might have something or a question that other people haven't asked. If it's a question that you have, other people are probably thinking it too. So please comment down below, let us know. And if there's certain things that you want to know more about, go ahead and reach out. Anything else, Morgan, before we call it? All right. Thanks everybody for watching. See you next time.